Great. All right. So today we'll be talking about women leaders driving change in cybersecurity. And we have Miss Genie with us to talk about it. And before we jump into the topic, I would like to give an introduction about who we are. Uh, Women Who Code is an organization for career-aged women, and we provide them with the required tools and support to go to the next level in their organization or elsewhere if they want to make a switch or they want to improve their skills. Uh, we are just there for them in all of these arenas. And we hope to bring knowledge and expertise of women excelling in various fields into this platform for them to share their experiences and for us to learn from them and leverage from that and take a plunge and go to the next level and excel in it. So today's session is specifically tailored to cybersecurity, which is the need of the hour as women representation in cyberspace isn't just as significant in current times. But with amazing leaders like Genie leading the way for us, I'm sure we will see more women in cybersecurity industry in the coming years. So today is the first session of cybersecurity under Women Who Code, and we're planning to bring on more speakers on this front to share their knowledge with us in the near future. So do keep a lookout on our meetup group for the same. And you can all scan this QR code. It should lead you to our Women Who Code Singapore website. And you can also follow us on different social media platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. And on the right here, you can see some of the series that is upcoming in the near future. And if you're interested in any of these, please feel free to join them by browsing our meetup group. Coming to today's session, today we have with us Ms. Genie. It's my pleasure to introduce you all to Ms. Genie. And Ms. Genie is currently heading Kaspersky's public policy and government affairs in APAC, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa regions. She provides leadership and counsel at the intersection of law, technology, and public policy. She's a thought leader and an eminent speaker on international platforms. She developed trusted relations with government and institutional stakeholders for the company while integrating the business, communication, and public policy strategies. She holds a Juris Doctor in law, an honors degree in accountancy, and a specialist diploma in counseling psychology. She's also a mediation coach and an international mediator. Outside of her professional portfolio, she's passionate about teaching and doing nonprofit and charity work. This has led her to be an adjunct professor at universities and serve on the boards of various committees of nonprofit organizations. That's a really long list. We are so happy to have Ms. Genie on this talk with us. And it's our privilege to share this time with you and gain knowledge from you. And yeah, so I'd like to pass on the presentation to you, Genie.
Yes. Thanks, Ruti. First of all, happy Sunday to everyone. I am speaking with you between travels for business, and I'm really happy that we're making this time to gather and to speak on this very important topic about generally, broadly about how a woman can transit from non-cybersecurity, non-tech role into one that is, actively sort of moving and shaking things in the industry. I'll be very happy to be sharing my own story. And I'll be happy to also take questions. So I did, the organizers did ask me maybe to share a little bit of a broad landscape at the start. And then we can get a little bit more into the more personal bits after that. But I'll start with a very quick presentation of what I see of the policy landscape in cybersecurity across Asia Pacific. And then we can get into more personal bits and we can also ask some questions. Yeah. So let me please just let me share my screen and let me know if this works. Do you see my presentation slides? Yeah, Shruti?
It's not in the presenter's view.
It's in the it's a normal presentation, right?
Yeah, we can see the slides.
You can see the slides. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we will be going through a few slides. I promise that it will not take too long. Really just giving some insights into the broad cyber trends across Asia Pacific.
I'm sorry, actually. So sorry to interrupt you. I think the view is still just the slides, not the presentation.
Is this now better?
Yes, now it's better.
You see the full slides, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Right. So okay, once again, let me redo this. So yes, the broad cyber trends across Asia Pacific are by and large similar in the last 5 to 10 years, actually. So you would notice that there has been growing digital dependency across countries around Asia Pacific and around the world, actually. Every other country has introduced their own digital footprint, digital transformation master plans of some sort. And so there has been also this following from people in the respective countries and across our regions to have that growing digital dependency. Everything has gone digitalized. And of course, there has been an exponential growth in that because of the pandemic that was plaguing us for about 3 years of our lives between 2020, 2021, and until 2022. And in fact, COVID is pretty much still with us, but we're just living with it. And we have grown so accustomed to this new norm of working from home, remote working, mobile banking and all that, and even in emerging markets in developing countries, this digitalization has caught on so quickly. Secondly, because of the digital dependency, there has also been a rising number of cyber attacks. So before COVID, and the numbers I'm about to share with you is staggering. I don't have it on the slide, but please listen carefully to the numbers that I'm going to be sharing with you. Before COVID, until 2019, the number of new, unique, malicious files, well, basically malware, that Kaspersky detects every day is 380,000 per day, which is staggering already. But post-COVID, as of last month, we did our math and we tabulated about 420,000 per day. So you can see that that is a reflection of how the number of, the kind of activities that's happening in the cyberspace. It has really stepped up. A lot of professional APT threat actors have also stepped up, and it has led to a rising number of cyber attacks. So you would also be hearing a lot more about cyber ransomware attacks and so on and so forth. And phishing attempts, scams, these are everyday affair for all of us. And I'm not sure about you, but I get called from a scam number every single day from all sorts of countries with all sorts of country codes. And so, this also forms part of that broad cyber trends that the world is experiencing. And of course, lastly, it brings me to an important topic, which I think we could talk a little bit more about today, which is that because of the growing digital dependency, and also arising from that, a large number of cyber attacks that's increasing on a day-to-day basis. We have now a growing need for cybersecurity talent because there are so many gaps to be plugged. So it is an important type of work to ensure that the cyberspace is a safe one for every single person, with huge impact for everyday people and for enterprises, for governments. So it's an important piece of work, but we are short of talent because, to be honest, really, the industry has got quite a fair number of IT professionals, but one must note that an IT professional may or may not be equipped to be a cybersecurity specialist. So this is where we want to delve a bit more into today, because a cybersecurity talent should have skills which are specific to the need of the job. So what we do is, while we are trying to train up cybersecurity talent to be able to go out there in the field, there are a lot of IT professionals who have shown interest in upskilling themselves to do a mid-career switch and specialization into specifically cybersecurity, which is why at Kaspersky we have introduced not just basic programs and training, but also conversion courses to help people specialize into cybersecurity. And then, of course, we have expert level training and education for professionals as well. Yeah. So now I just want to speak very broadly about the different levels of cybersecurity readiness that I've observed across Asia Pacific. So if you were to look at APAC, we can broadly categorize countries into three main groups according to the level of readiness to deal with cyber attacks. They're actually the advanced ones, the intermediate, and the initial countries. Yeah. So advanced countries are basically leaders in the cybersecurity field with clear strategies in place and are already acting on these strategies and actively having developed these strategies. Intermediate countries are basically those which have identified cyber attacks as an area that they need to look into and have attempted to make some inroads. And of course, the last group of countries would be what I call the initial countries, which have only just begun paying attention to this area for various reasons, including, and they have put cybersecurity in the back burner for a number of years, perhaps because of more pressing domestic needs, including, but not limited to having to deal with a pandemic. So these categories are really not an attempt to downplay the efforts or efficacy of any one country, but on the contrary, it helps us to better, as a cybersecurity vendor, to help us better tailor solutions to meet the specific needs of a particular country based on the current level of cybersecurity readiness. Now, just to give examples, Singapore, for instance, is a prime example of a country that has been putting a lot of effort into boosting its national cybersecurity capacity. In 2020, it launched a Safer Cyberspace Master Plan with the aim to raise the general level of cybersecurity in Singapore. And one aspect of the plan involves strengthening cyber attack detection and analysis capabilities on a national scale, including around artificial intelligence and IoT systems. So there has also been plans to support enterprises to do so through self-help resources and automated software as a service solution. And next we move on to Australia. Australia, of course, they have had an Australia Cybersecurity Strategy 2020, which identified data security as a national priority with an investment of 1.7 thereabouts billion Australian dollars allocated over 10 years. So the government's three-pronged strategy of building a stronger digital ecosystem, growing a skilled workforce and protecting Australians shows that they're taking cybersecurity very seriously. Yeah. So of course, a key focus for Kaspersky is enabling countries in the intermediate category who have identified and attempted inroads on the specific aspects of cybersecurity to move up to the advanced group. And of course, this includes identifying and talking about the gaps in infrastructure, gaps in education, and to develop a clear strategy and milestones to remedy that gap. So both India and Indonesia, for instance, remain on the cusp of releasing the national cybersecurity strategies, and I'm really looking forward to the release of these strategies. But it highlights the importance of the issue within these countries, particularly with a spike of cyber attacks, data leaks, ransomware attacks, which I briefly alluded to earlier on. And some of these are very high profile as well. It also speaks to the challenges of integrating nationwide considerations and efforts into a cohesive plan to get stakeholder buy-in and to manage the complications arising from the pandemic. So in parallel to releasing its strategy, India is obviously constantly making headway in leveling up the cybersecurity skills of thousands of government officials and companies in critical sectors. It's also initiated cybersecurity investments and established agreements outside of ASEAN, with Japan, Israel, Bahrain, for instance, and have agreed to boost cooperation in capacity building, research and development, and so on and so forth. Now in Indonesia, similarly, they decided to last year to centralize the coordination of all, the year before last year, they decided to centralize the coordination of all cybersecurity affairs within their National Cyber and Crypto Agency called BSSN, looking into development of more capacity building initiatives to boost cybersecurity talent. And of course, I have had the privilege of having that firsthand experience at supporting several governments within the Asia-Pacific region and beyond in other regions as well in their efforts through our cyber capacity building program. So against the backdrop of the pandemic, geopolitics, government organizations, and critical sectors will continue to be natural targets for a whole array of cyber attacks, right? Be it for cyber espionage, for money, or political agenda. So it's pivotal for countries to build capacity, starting with their own cybersecurity strategies. And I'm glad to see that there are many countries around the globe which have, paid attention to this aspect. Now, I just want to quickly end with this. Having spoken so much about and given some examples of actual countries and their development plans in cybersecurity, why cybersecurity, right? This was a question which I want to ask you to think about. And I would then also now offer my take on why I chose cybersecurity, which leads me to my next slide, which is my final slide. And you can see on this slide that, I have put down different sectors from construction, oil and gas, education, government, banking and finance, all the way to tourism, right? In green font. And then you would notice that in gray, I've put down as some examples of quantum computing, IoT, satellite tech, 5G, possibly some countries moving to 6G already. But it's non-exhaustive, because there would also be artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all, e-commerce. All these are basic. The things I've put in gray are basically the different subsectors in technology. So my answer to why cybersecurity is because cybersecurity is everywhere. Cybersecurity is instrumental because your data, your technology is only as effective as it is secure, right? So I've realized from early stages in my career that cybersecurity is really the one common thread that is undergirding all subsectors, all industries. So if your data, your cyberspace, your network is not secure, for instance, your cloud is not secure, then your data can be manipulated, your money can be stolen, your corporate identity and your intellectual property can also be taken away from you. And then your business is impacted. The stability of a country and its government is also impacted. And the trust that the people have in any particular country would also be negatively impacted. and that personal safety will also be impacted. So cybersecurity is really everywhere, in every part of the social fabric as well, among businesses, and also should be top of the mind among governments and regulators. So I think the future is bright for anyone who does pick cybersecurity as a domain area. And I'll be happy to take more specific questions and discuss anything surrounding this topic. Shruti, this marks the end of my very short introduction. I'll just hand the time back to you.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. That was amazing. We got to hear some great insights about the recent trends that we have in the cyberspace today and where different countries stand in terms of their cybersecurity processes. And so we'd like to open up to the audience for any questions that you may have. Please feel free to ask Jeannie.
I think I can go first. I have a very beginner level question. Like if I work in a startup and I'm actually wondering how a company, like we deal with on-prem servers, and I was just thinking like how if a company or like a few developers want to get into cybersecurity or implement best practices, how should they go about it?
So you work in a startup, right?
Yeah.
And I would imagine that a lot of your cybersecurity sort of like functions are outsourced currently.
Presently, we're just building the product, but we don't have any cybersecurity practices in place because we only deploy on on-prem servers, and everything is within the network of the client. So we're looking into how we can get started.
Right. If there is, so when you mean, I just really am trying to frame the question. So when you are asking how you should get started, you mean to secure, as in cybersecurity within your company, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what you can do is really, because I believe within your startup, most, if not all of you are tech trained in some way or another, right?
Yes, that's true.
So maybe you are coders, pen testers, and so on and so forth. So what you can do is that you actually already have the basics, understanding of what a network is, for instance, you understand the lingo. So what you can do really is to sign your people up for some courses specific to cybersecurity. And there are actually many vendors out there who are able to provide such sort of training at the intermediate to expert level. This is not a marketing platform for me, so I'll not go too much into this. But Kaspersky, for instance, has got a brochure of very good courses, which people from whether they're customers, governments, regulators, individuals, or mid-career switches, people who are trying to, first of all, people who are trying to get into the industry. So they have that 101 kind of a training, or mid-career switches who are trying to specialize in cybersecurity, or people who are already cybersecurity specialists and are trying to get expert level training. So we're talking about reverse malware engineering, digital forensics, that kind of expert level training. So that we do have, vendors like us would have a suite of such training, and I would encourage you and your organization to sort of look into that and start equipping yourselves for that. Because there has been cyber attack trends where cyber attackers do not just go for the large enterprises. They don't just go for the colonial pipelines. Yeah, they have started to hit out at small, medium businesses as well, because they deem those to be the low-hanging fruits with weaker sort of internal cybersecurity practices and all that. And possibly not so well equipped and fewer resources to equip themselves, and do not have the human resources to protect themselves. And so they've been sort of starting to hit out at the small, medium enterprises as well, including startups. So I think it's never too early to start equipping yourselves, and nothing beats having the know-how yourselves. I know that as a part of your business, you do not need to sort of provide cybersecurity consultation or whatsoever to your customers, because you deal with a lot of on-prem services. But you never know also, because your business may then grow to a stage where you start providing a larger scope of services, and all of this may come in very handy as well. So I would encourage you to begin with proper training, education, and to equip yourselves.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned that there are some courses. Can you please share the name again? I missed that.
Yeah, I can do that through Shruti. Maybe you can share it with the participants after the session. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
sure,
so much.
Definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Any more questions?
Can I just ask if everyone here is already in cybersecurity?
I am not from cybersecurity. So it was really interesting to hear from you all the different things that you talked about. Yeah. So we have a question here from one of the audience. So let me just share that with you. Are there any best practices for securing my smartphone and preventing data breaches or theft?
Yes. First of all, I believe this question is, from someone who's asking the question as an individual user, right? First of all, practice good, what I call hygiene, right? Some of these hygiene factors would be to make sure that you have a good password that's installed. I was on a very recent, I think 2 business trips ago, I was in a particular country, which I shall not name. And I was trying to tap on someone's network, for the company Wi-Fi, to sort of check some personal email, actually, not my work email. And then I was asking, okay, let me tap on this, your Wi-Fi. Can you key in the password for me? And he actually told me, oh, no, I'll give you the password. And the password is 87654321. So I had a shock of my life. I'm like, first of all, did you just tell me your password? And second of all, did you just tell me your password is 87654321? So I think these are very sort of basic hygiene factors, which a lot of people actually have neglected. So make sure that you have a strong password for your device. And what I do is that for some of the apps, I actually activate 2FA as well, 2-factor, so that I have a double lock on my device, on my information, all that. Third of all, what I would encourage you to do is to make sure that your smartphone has a proper security installed, security software installed. So for me, of course, I use Kaspersky Total Security, and that helps. And of course, fourth of all, I would just ask that you do not ever store your financial information in your phone when you're using your phone to surf on certain websites to make certain purchases. I know it's very tempting when you get on e-commerce sites or any application where you tend to spend a lot quite frequently, to save your credit card details, for instance, so that the next time you do not have to whip out your card and start keying everything in again. Right? I know it's tempting. I know it saves a lot of time, but please do not do that, because it opens up a lot of opportunities for your financial information to be compromised. Yeah. So in terms of, the question is very specific, so I'm trying to be very specific. It's about securing smartphone and preventing data breaches or theft. So the first thing I'm thinking of is your personal data, financial information, and I hope that answers your question.
Great. Those were some real good solutions to keep our smartphones safe.
Yeah, she said
Yeah.
it did. Thank you. So, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask you, and I hope that would benefit the audience as well. So I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to transition from a career in law to cybersecurity, and how did you make that shift?
Well, this is where, okay, we can go into a bit more personal bits, and I'm very happy to share always. I am the most unlikely person you would find in the cybersecurity space, because I am one person I was born and bred in very traditional professions. First, accountancy, commerce, banking and finance, sort of a field, and then also law. And I therefore would naturally take a professional track, right, that is non-industry. So I would be in professional services and all that. But of course, life is full of surprises. I had the opportunity to work and sort of rise up the ranks from government service, within government service. And then I reached a certain point where I was thinking to myself, I want to be closer to business. I want to have that market experience rather than to sit in a comfortable chair, sit in the ivory tower and, work from within government, which gives me great exposure and that macro point of view when it comes to development of industries and economies and policy making and all that, which has been great experience, and also honing my diplomacy skills and all. So when the time came, it was about end 2019. Strangely enough, I started getting calls from headhunters, and all from the tech industry. As a person, on a personal level, I have always been investing in the tech sector, because I've always believed that, even though I haven't been in the tech industry before, I had always felt that the tech industry is always on the rise. Tech is the future, and I think we all acknowledge and understand that. But specifically, I'm not aware very much about cybersecurity. And then in 2019, there were tech companies that were calling me up from different subsectors. And eventually in beginning of 2020, I decided to take that leap of faith and join Kaspersky because the role was interesting. It required me to exercise all of the skills that I've accumulated in my previous jobs, and to put them and invest them into my current job, and to actively participate, playing my function within the industry. And in that process, when I joined Kaspersky in 2020, on the 20th of March, actually. So I'm just slightly past 3 years, and I recently celebrated my 3-year anniversary with Eugene Kaspersky when we were on a business trip together. It was really poignant and very, very, very meaningful, a milestone for me, actually. So when I joined, obviously, you remember, 20th of March 2020 would have been in the middle of COVID, right? So I was like, what have I gotten myself into? But first of all, it was fine. So I honored the promise. I joined the firm. I remember the first day I joined the company, there was a grand total of 3 people who welcomed me at the office. First, of course, our office manager. Second, obviously, HR to hand me the letters that I've signed and the contracts. And third of all, IT to ensure that I get my devices for me to work. And shortly after that, they were like, oh, please, Genie, please go home, because nobody comes to the office anymore. And I have been onboarded purely online. I haven't met any of my colleagues until 2021, when the world started opening up. It was super exponential, well, very, very very steep learning curve. I had to, I placed myself in, I placed conditions on myself. I pressured myself in that sense. I told myself that I will only give myself 3 months to learn all of the lingo. So I went through product briefings. I spoke with our researchers. I made sure that I read widely. I attended a lot of events, a lot of training to ensure that I understand and learn very quickly. Right, so that motivated me. And from there, I realized that I was able to grow very, very quickly, very fast. And by my 6-month mark, I was able to go out there and actually speak very confidently on the topics. Yeah, so I think my story really just goes to show that you don't really need that formal training to be able to contribute in your own special way to the industry. And in fact, I have been actively participating in a lot of discussions in terms of cybersecurity policy developments from across different countries around the regions. People, have been consulting me as a policy expert. And also I have, started delving into very technical topics as well. So I think we can each find our own space and carve out our own space where we can really, really value add and be confident about this as well. So I hope that there should be no reason for anyone to feel that there's an impediment for you to explore and venture into new areas, which may or may not be within your comfort zone. But for as long as you're willing to learn and to learn quickly, I believe you will get there. Yeah.
Right. That's absolutely amazing and super inspiring. I mean, to make a career change, especially in the middle of the pandemic, I mean, literally hats off to you for that. And that's definitely going to motivate all of us to push our limits and be a go-getter.
No turning back, no turning back.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'd like to check with you. So do we have time for a couple more questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead. Yeah. I think we have a couple of chat, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's one. What are the common mistakes that small companies or startups make when it comes to cybersecurity?
Well, the single most common and dangerous mistake would be it's here, to think and to say that, nah, we're not going to get hit. We're not going to get hit by a cyber attack. The hackers and the cyber attackers are not interested in us. And this is not unique. Just if I may just, expand the scope of the question a little bit, if I may, yeah. It's not, yes, it happens commonly among small companies and startups, but sometimes also with big organizations, and also with individuals. So there are a lot of people who, using their mobile phones and sharing passwords openly, practicing no cyber hygiene, and leaving their phones unlocked, stuff like that, or computers unlocked in the office space. Or I have walked through offices, on visits, and walked through staff areas, been taken to walk through staff areas where I see, your pin boards at the staff cubicles with papers with passwords written there saying password to. So there are some of these common mistakes which still happen today, and it's surprising, but it also doesn't surprise me because I've seen so much of it. So the common mistake among people, among startups, even organizations, among individuals, is to think that nobody's interested in your data. Nobody is interested in your password. Nobody's interested in your privacy, or rather your private matters. Oftentimes, the behavior and the thinking of cyber attackers is they would go for the weakest link. So if you were to continue to think that nobody's interested and not care about these things, you will be the prime target, and you will then become the weak link in your organization, arising in the downfall of your organization, being hacked, being victim to a cyber incident. So that is, to me, the most common mistake, the human mind. Yeah. I
Right.
hope, yeah, I think that I hope makes everyone sit up a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. And so we have the next question. How do you think the future looks like for Singapore in terms of investing in open source or application security solutions?
Well, I think the future is bright, and I think that the market has already gone in that direction. It's not new. When you're talking about open source or application security solutions, it has started, but I'm no fortune teller, but I do believe that the market has an appetite for that. Not just in Singapore, actually, in other countries as well, because I have the privilege of working across many markets, spanning across at least half or more of the world, and increasingly people are looking into this space as well. So I'm not sure if Nervi is a coder already and is looking into this, but the market.
I'm a coder currently, so I'm doing my research around this area.
Yeah. So I think there is a future in this. What you could do is to carry on working along those lines and getting yourself out there, find speaking opportunities at conferences out there and at events, and share what you have researched into and what you've come up with, and put yourself out there and continue to make a name for yourself. I feel that the future is going in that direction. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much for the answer. It really seems optimistic to me.
Maybe your voice is slightly feeble. Were you able to hear her?
I don't think she was intending to. I think it was background noise. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think we have a question for maybe one final time for one final question before we end the session. So anything at all.
Anyone? Yeah. What advice would you share with a non-technical architect professional trying to transition to cybersecurity? That's actually in line with what I wanted to ask next. So how can people who are actually not in the cybersecurity line try to make a switch? And what do you think are the most required skills for that? And what are the opportunities that we have to kind of, go after for people who want to switch into cybersecurity?
Well, the advice I would give Rupa, who asked the question, will be the same advice that I gave myself. When trying to transition to cybersecurity, first thing, don't try to think that you need to understand everything before you move into it, right? There is no perfect cybersecurity professional out there, first of all. For me, my colleagues have gone up and my stakeholders have said that, has it only been 3 years? Because you talk and you discuss subjects with us and you go out there and speak on the topic as if you've been here for more than 10 years. Now, the thing is, and the trick is to not try to think that you need to understand everything under the sun before you take that step of faith into the sector. The cybersecurity sector is a sector that's very ready to embrace people at all levels of experience. And it gives room, from my personal experience, it has given me that room to learn and to grow as I go along, right? So yes, it's only been more than 3 years for me. And there are people who say that they feel I've been around for more than 10 years, but I'm still not satisfied. I'm still learning. And every single day is a new day for me, literally. And I feel that every day I'm still learning a lot from people, from my juniors even, from the people that I meet. So that is one, which is again, starts with the mind. Please do not think you need to be Miss Know-it-all before you take that leap of faith. People are a lot more forgiving than you may think they are. Second is that stay humble, always be ready to learn, right? So that's the other end of the spectrum. So first is you don't need to be know-it-all before you step in, just take that step of faith. And once you're in, stay humble and keep learning. I'm constantly learning from people who are even more junior to me. I never for one day think that anything is beneath me. Yeah. Every opportunity, there's a space to learn. I do a lot of mentorship and mentoring rather. I do a lot of mentorship programs, and I'm actively mentoring people who are older, younger than me, whatever, newer and all that. I also mentor a lot of people who are younger than me, including students. And even from students, I am learning. I learn what they're thinking, which is a reflection of the upcoming trends, concerns from within the industry. There is always something to learn. So that is the second tip that I have for you. And thirdly, I think is because you are from a non-technical background, like myself, then I think we should try to learn smart, right? So we need to know how to equip ourselves with some technical knowledge so that we can then be a value add, even while we're pursuing a non-technical function within the industry. Does that make sense? Yeah. For instance, my role currently does not require me to be technically trained, but I place high expectations on myself. I feel that I need to at least understand certain level of technical information so that I can interpret them to be able to give proper advice and to add value. Because a lot of policy developments are actually founded on and based off technical information and topics. Yeah. So what I do is that I would make sure that I learn some technical aspects enough for me to deliver my job well. So just to summarize, 3 things. Number 1, don't feel discouraged from, making that transition just because you don't know everything. Second of all, get in there and stay humble and keep learning from all sorts of people in the industry that you would meet. And third of all, smart learning. Yeah, learn in the correct areas that will fill the gaps for you in that knowledge gap, and to expand your knowledge bank so that you can be a better professional in the cybersecurity space. Thank you.
Right, that's such a great answer. I think that generally applies to anyone who's looking to make a switch, for them to take that leap of faith and then learn the important bits that's required for them to do their new job well. Yeah, well said on that. So I don't think we have any more questions also, and I think we are just in time. So yeah, thank you so much, Genie, for taking this time today to speak with us. And your insights and perspective were really valuable. And we are thoroughly encouraged by your journey. And we also hope to take similar steps in our career as well. Yeah, it was such a pleasure to have you with us.
Yes, I look forward to thank you. First of all, thank you for having me, and thanks Shruti for moderating this session. It's been wonderful. And it's been great chatting with the ladies in this event. And I look forward to meeting all of you actually online, offline, and also possibly in the industry. Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely. I mean, if you're open to it, we'd also like to have future sessions where you might want to touch upon any topics in particular as well. And we're always happy to assimilate and learn more from you.
Sure. Thank you very much. And have a great Sunday, everyone, and a wonderful, wonderful week ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And we hope this session was fruitful for you on a Sunday morning. So, and please do join us on our future sessions like this and have some meaningful takeaways from it. And yeah, thank you so much and have a great Sunday, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.